Hi everybody, Peter here once again. Thanks for joining me on my channel Thailand Bound. If you arrived here by accident, I talk about all things Thailand, and today I'm going to be reading out 3 viewers' stories. Okay, so if you remember last Saturday I said I'd exhausted all the stories, and unless I get some more in I wouldn't be able to do any more because I simply didn't have any left. Well, I have been sent 3 more. I do prepare these videos quite earlier in the week, so if any more come in, then I'll save them for next week. If I don't get any more, then there won't be a video of this nature next Saturday. But luckily I've got these 3 for you today, so hopefully you'll enjoy these. So guys, let's not waste any more time. Let's jump straight in with the first story.
สวัสดีค่ะ
If you should ever become in need of medical attention while being in a foreign country, it would indeed be a worry. A few years ago, I had such an experience in Thailand. Nothing too serious, I hasten to add, but nevertheless cause for concern. Anyone who doesn't even have an ounce of geographical knowledge will still be aware that Thailand is a hot country, and you don't have to be Einstein to work out that with its warm climates, it becomes just the perfect breeding place for incubating airborne bacteria and nasty little creatures with the ability to carry and to transmit them. After visiting now on numerous occasions, you would think I would be aware of this little fact, and you would also be right to assume I would be put into place any necessary precautions to combat them. So with this in mind, as it had been a while since my last inoculations, and with my latest trip to the Far East only a few weeks away, I reluctantly went to visit my local doctor to find out if my immune system needed any help to cope with the above mentioned risk of contracting some horrible infectious disease. Apparently the main one, typhoid, was currently still serving its purpose within my system, which only left necessary a booster jab for tetanus. Great stuff, not even a mention about malaria, or more to the point, malaria tablets. I'm led to believe that unless you're climbing mountains or venturing into the heart of the jungle, malaria inoculations just aren't necessary when travelling to any major city and coastal areas of Thailand. On hearing this news, as I was extremely relieved. I have heard many tales of woe from people who have suffered with the side effects from anti-malaria drugs, and being no Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, I really didn't feel the need to take such precautions, as after all, I did have my trusty bottle of anti-mosquito spray to put pay to any of the little blood-sucking gnats. Fast forward a few weeks to Bangkok, it took less than a week into my holiday for Mr, Mrs, Miss, Auntie, Uncle, in fact the whole damn mosquito family, to find out there was new Western blood in town. I swear those pesky mosquitoes must have been watching my every move as I regularly applied the mosquito spray. I took meticulous care every day, following the instructions to the letter on the bottle. They may have been in waiting, watching, listening, even as I applied the last remaining few squirts of the bottle onto my upper torso, as I told my Thai sweetheart, I'm out of mosquito spray, dear, better get some more tomorrow. My delicate little lotus blossom obviously was clearly paying more attention to the latest tomfoolery on the local Thai TV channel. I could hear it coming from the other room, although on reflection more likely her lack of enthusiasm was due to the fact that because she had been brought up with a little blood-sucking midget, she couldn't quite see what I was making all the fuss about. My guess is that from an early age the Thai immune system has formed a bond with the bloodthirsty critters, some sort of truce, and in return for the mosquitoes not biting them, Thai nationals would provide stupid Westerners by the thousands. Every day hundreds of new unsuspecting Westerners would parade themselves half naked in the blistering tropical heat for the 6-legged flying disease transmitted gnats to torment them with their painful itching bites as they feast on their prey of puffy pink swollen flesh. I can hear them now. The warm right taste of fresh Western blood. Nice. Well, that's how I see it anyway. No sooner had I drained out the last drop of mosquito repellent did they plan their attack. That very night I'm sure the word got out amongst the entire insect family, of whom found it within themselves to give me a warm welcome to their part of the world. Or in simple terms, a rude awakening from the home of the mosquito. Oh yes, I remember it well. That night we went out for a meal, my darling and I. A beautiful evening, sat under the stars eating the delights of Thai cuisine while slurping on a glass of ice cold beer. I distinctly remember the waitress sliding what looked like a small tray of smouldering charcoal under the table, apparently to ward off any mosquitoes, with the idea of joining us for dinner. How nice, so thoughtful of her. The next morning, as I peeled back my eyelids, my attention was drawn down the bed covers, in brackets, behave yourself, I'm trying to keep this story clean. Further down than that, actually to my legs, they resembled the pages from a dot-to-dot book. There were more holes in them than a pincushion. It appeared the insects had truly had their fill. During the course of the night, they had seized the opportunity to extract the red stuff that pumped through my veins. God only knows how or precisely when, but they had certainly had their breakfast, lunch and dinner all in one sitting and left behind their calling card. I swear, if someone had wished to write the entire novel War and Peace in Braille on my lower body, there would have been less spots. It's a wonder I could stand up. They must have taken at least a couple of pints of blood out of me. I felt like a zombie from the film The Living Dead. Moreover, I looked like one. It was at this point my sweetheart came to the rescue. No problem, dear. I have clean. Like pulling a rabbit out of a hat, she produced out of nowhere a tiny red jar with a picture of some Chinese guy on the lid. Inside it contained what I can only describe as Thai's equivalent to Vicks Vapor Rub, an ointment my mother would rub on my chest and throat as a child if I had a cold, and my good lady proceeded to apply it to the affected areas, which consisted of the entire bottom half of my body. I'm not quite sure what she was thinking, or more to the point what I was thinking, allowing her to do so, but not before long my legs felt like they were on fire. I have no idea to this day who that Chinese guy was on the lid of the cream or what he was advertising, but I swear if it was a cure for mosquito bites, he wants a good kick right over the Great Wall of China. I tried in vain to refrain from the terrible, incredible urge to scratch him. It wasn't until we both agreed on closer inspection that because my ankles were increasingly starting to resemble a couple of watermelons, that we should pay a visit to the local hospital. Brilliant. I'm on holiday in one of the most exciting cities in the world, and all I have to look forward to is a day trip to Bangkok Yanhee Hospital. If hospitals in the United Kingdom are anything to go by, I know I was in for a long day. The thoughts in my head weren't good as we drove towards the hospital. I was in a foreign country with the prospect of spending the rest of the day waiting, standing around in queues in a busy hospital. Admittedly, I had my sweetheart on hand with me, who would be my mouthpiece and ears for that matter, to help me with any translation problems. But nevertheless, I had resigned myself to standing around in queues for the rest of the day, while desperately trying to refrain from scratching all the blisters that had now begun to grow in stature, leaving the skin on my inner thighs resembling the surface of the moon. How long would I have to wait? Luckily, on this occasion, I need not have worried. On entering the hospital, I must admit I was amazed to find no apparent queue. We walked straight up to the reception counter where two members of staff, it seemed, were personally waiting for my arrival. Wow, I was impressed. No waiting to take ticket number 371 and wait as they shout out number 23. Not even a small queue. After a very brief discussion between my sweetheart and the hospital receptionist, I was handed over a tiny slip of paper from one receptionist and a pen from the other, and asked politely if it would be possible for me to fill it in. Nothing too difficult. Name, address, contact phone number and reason for visit. Even I can complete this questionnaire. In less than a minute, the completed form was handed back to the receptionist without any further delay. The polite and extremely attractive receptionist immediately called over her shoulder to a young girl waiting just out of view. The girl promptly came into vision, and as she headed towards me, I distinctly thought there was something odd about her posture. It was as if she was gliding towards me. It wasn't until the rest of her body appeared from behind the counter that I realised why. She was wearing rollerblades, barely had time to take it in. In no time at all, she had emerged from nowhere and skated off into the distance, whizzing down the hospital corridor, taking my slip of paper with her. As I turned to look at my sweetheart, I really couldn't help but smile. I was feeling better already. So we moved on to the next stage of the hospital procedure for stupid Westerners with mosquito bites. The second floor of Yanhee General Hospital was absolutely buzzing with people of what seemed every walk of life were milling around. Some sat, obviously though no choice of their own while others chose to stand. I wasn't quite sure which position to take, as sitting or standing didn't really ease the uncomfortable itchiness that was increasingly taking over my body. Although there were lots of patients waiting around, it was still blatantly obvious the number of staff still grossly outnumbered the patients by at least 3 to 1. Quite literally, everywhere I looked there were staff at hand, and beautiful ones at that. As my eyes scanned around the open plan level, I was totally amazed. The first thing you can't help but notice is the immaculate dress and presentation of all the staff. Every department and every level of authority, doctors, nurses, down to the cleaners, it was obvious they all took very much pride in their appearance, each one having their own colour-coded outfits. The nurses even wore those wonderful white starched nursing caps with a red cross on the front, as they all went around about their duties with what appeared military position. I swear there were more pretty women working in this hospital than there were in the entire road of soy cowboy. There were drinks trolleys scattered around at regular intervals with what looked like an assortment of fruit juices that we could help ourselves to. The air conditioning gently brought down your temperature from the stinking hot heat outside, and I was promptly led to the skin department. I watched as the girls on rollerblades skated by in their own pink coloured coded outfits, carrying their latest dispatch to its port of call. Everything just seemed so efficient as they whizzed by me in a jet stream of long black hair. In no time at all, I was met by another 2 members of staff, Sawadee Ka. They greeted me in unison with their hands placed together in front of their face. Their eyes lit up, and their warm smiles just could not have got any bigger, as they each displayed 2 rows of perfectly white teeth. As one took my blood pressure, the other weighed me. I must say I felt like royalty. It did cross my mind at this point just where our own National Health Service over in England had gone desperately wrong. Just by receiving a warm welcome and a smile to match, I had almost forgotten the reason I had come in the first place. Admittedly, I appreciate Yan He Hospital is not a government-run hospital, and patients do have to pay out their hard-earned cash to receive treatment as it's a business, but still, hospitals back home really are such a morbid, time-consuming, depressing place. You can feel the very draining from you as you sit and wait endlessly while staring at the bland 4 walls, waiting for the overweight, overworked, underpaid nurse to give her own abrupt, opinionated view on your present state of health. Having had all my vital organs checked out with the latest in state-of-the-art electronic equipment, I was told to take a seat and the doctor would see me within 10 minutes. How disappointing is that? Only 10 minutes to sit around in what was proven to me to be one of the real eye-openers of this particular Bangkok trip. During my stays in Thailand, I've spent many hours walking around temples, and I've enjoyed many evenings sampling many different cuisines in many different restaurants. I've travelled on many modes of transport, including boats, cars, sky trains, underground trains, buses and planes, even elephants. I've been to shopping malls, bars, parks, water parks and theme parks. I had looked around museums, seen culture, Thai boxing bouts and concerts. I've had my photo taken with tigers, crocodiles, bears, elephants, partner snakes and monkeys. Throughout, I have become acquainted to numerous different nationalities, meeting people from many different walks of life. I've stayed in hotels, apartments and even Thai homes. The list really goes on, but I really must admit I didn't think I would be adding my visit to a Thai hospital to the list of things as a must go and see. Okay, maybe I'm overstating things a little, but I can't emphasize enough on how making this trip to Yan He Hospital opened my eyes yet again to the way how we can learn so much from this supposedly third world country, Thailand. Had yet again not failed to surprise me. True to form, in precisely 10 minutes, yet another nurse came through to escort me to see the doctor. The female doctor, yet another stunner, I might add, on taking up no more of my time, was quick to diagnose severe insect bites. Well, okay, tell me something I don't know. She scribbled something in Thai on a prescription, and it turned out she had prescribed me with 2 sets of tablets and a tube of cream and some cleaning solution. Total cost 420 baht, £6 at the time. That's about $8 US. Quick as a flash, out came my sweetheart's magic hat again as she produced one of the many hundreds of 10% off discount cards she collects, and so to the end with a final procedure of parting with my cash and collecting my prescribed drugs on my exit. I was in and out from start to finish within 30 minutes. Not bad, right? I was totally impressed, and according to the smiling doctor, soon to be totally cured. I was totally impressed, and according to the smiling doctor, soon to be totally cured. It was without doubt the best £6 I had ever spent. Back on the street outside Yan He General Hospital, life went on as normal. That is, if you consider an elephant walking down the middle of the street normal. Well, I guess as normal as it can be. The next couple of days, my lovely sweetheart took good care of me, catering for my every whim. Gently she cleaned my battle scars at regular intervals with a sterile solution and generally applied the correct cream. In conclusion, I took the anti-itching and antibiotic tablets prescribed, and pretty soon I was back on my feet, reeling in more of the delights of Thailand and ready to take one man's deadliest foe once again, the mosquito. I'll give you a little tip, guys, what I do, and it does work. When you're out and about in Thailand, obviously, as Pat has mentioned in this story, mosquitoes can be a real problem when you're outside in an open beer bar or an open restaurant, something like that. You don't feel them biting. You get back to your hotel and they itch like crazy. I've had it a few times. Not these days, I don't get them. But you know the aerosol, the deodorant that you use to spray under your arm? If you're going on vacation, you'll take 2 or 3 cans of them because you use a lot of it when you're in Thailand. And what I do, I'll normally go out in a t-shirt and shorts if I'm going around beer bars. Just when you put your deodorant on, just spray it up your arms until just under your t-shirt there, and the same on your legs. So if you spray it just under the top of the sock line, or if you're not wearing socks, over the top of your feet and up your legs, you'll never get a bite. That's what I do. I don't buy any mosquito repellent, so just use deodorant and it works every time. Okay, so thanks to Pat for that story. That was quite entertaining, and we'll go straight into the second one. Okay, these next 2 stories are a bit shorter, quite a bit shorter actually, and the third story I'm going to read out to you is very short. This next story is a little bit of a precautionary tale. The guy who's telling the story, he's fairly young. I think he was about 30. He didn't say exactly, but he wasn't a retired guy. So let me just crack straight on with this one, and you can make up your own mind at the end of this if it was a lesson that you can take on board or not. I spent about a year in Pattaya back in 2009 just chilling out, enjoying the bars and nightlife. For most of this time I was staying at the same hotel, which was very close to the crossroads at Soi Buakhao and Soi Diana. The hotel is still there today, but I think it's changed to a more hostel type place, or at least it was before everything was put on hold. During the days I would use the bar/restaurant that was attached to the hotel's reception area, as the food was pretty good, and they used to do promotions on local beers where if you ordered 3 it was cheaper, so inevitably I would end up there most of the day chatting with tourists and some of the expats that also use the bar to watch sports. I became friendly with all of the staff there, as I am an easygoing type and would chat and joke with them throughout the day. One of the staff members was an older lady who was very friendly and had worked there for years as a waitress. I used to feel a little bit sorry for her, as she walked with quite a severe limp owing to a motorcycle accident years before, and would be on her feet for up to 8 hours a day running around serving the customers, so I always made sure I left her a good tip. One day when the restaurant was quiet, I was sitting chatting with her and the other staff when she asked if I would like to meet her later for a drink. She said that there was somebody she would like me to meet. I went along later with a friend from London to a bar on the 3rd road. When we arrived, they were already there, and the lady with the limp had a very good looking girl with her. We sat down and ordered drinks, and the young girl was introduced as her daughter May. I've already changed her name. May was 22 years old and was currently attending university. She spoke a little English, but not so much that would make me think she had spent too much time around foreigners. As I said, she was very good looking, mild-mannered and friendly. My friend from London, who was quite a bit older than me, didn't seem happy as he seemed to be getting set up with her mother. After that evening, May and I became an item and spent most evenings together. She was a very pleasant change from the usual bar girl types and their usual bullshit that goes with them. One night after we had been out for the evening, we were back at my hotel room. We had decided on an early night, so it was only around 10 p.m. when we were watching TV when there was a knock at the door. I got up to see who it was, and when I looked through the peephole, I saw the hotel manager standing there with a security guard. As I recognised the people standing there, I opened the door thinking there was some issue with the room or something like that. As I started to open the door, it was pushed open from the outside and a young Thai man pushed his way into the room, whying me as he came in. You know the why. Obviously, I was not expecting this and looked at the manager and security guard for an explanation. The manager said that the man was the motorbike taxi driver that had dropped us back to the hotel and that he was complaining that he hadn't been paid. This was rubbish as we had walked back that evening, so I turned to face the man to see what the issue really was. He and May began shouting at each other in Thai and I had no idea what was being said, but I got the idea they knew each other. Suddenly he pulled his arm back as if to hit her, so I stepped in between them. The security guard was still just standing there doing nothing. With this, the man just threw himself on the floor and lay there doing nothing. May was crying and to be honest I had no idea what to do. Suddenly the man just jumped up and walked out of the room. The security guard followed him and the manager apologised and went after them. I went back in and closed the door, making sure it was locked. I asked May what had just happened and she said the man was her ex-boyfriend. They had split up a couple of months ago, but he couldn't accept that it was all over. He had managed to get access to one of her social media accounts and from that he had found out my name and what hotel I was staying at and therefore knew where to find May. I decided not to push the matter any further as we had only been together for a short while and at the end of the day we all have a past. The next day we sort of just carried on as normal, though I must admit to feeling slightly uneasy when I was out and about. I couldn't shake the feeling that we hadn't seen the last of May's ex-boyfriend and was sort of expecting to be approached by him and his friends at some point, as we all know how the Thais don't like to lose face and can sometimes use violence to deal with problems. Fortunately, nothing ever came of it and things came to an end with May, not for any reason other than the fact that we wanted different things out of life. I hear that she now has an 8-year-old son and has opened a restaurant over on the dark side that she runs with her mum. I wish her all the best. I guess the reason I wanted to share this story was to highlight the fact that when in Thailand, no matter where you are staying and who you see through your peephole, you should always use a safety chain before you open the door. I feel that I was very lucky with how this turned out because let's face it, when he forced his way into the room like that, he could have had a knife or something like that and things could have gone very differently. I hope you enjoy the story and more people send you some to read out, as I for one quite enjoy them. Yeah, thanks for that. That's one of those stories. It is a little bit precautionary, isn't it? And when you're dealing with Thai couples, it can be, you know, that was May had a Thai boyfriend. It can be very, very dangerous. You don't want to mess around with anything like that knowingly. All right, on to our third and final story today. This is another short one, but it's quite interesting. And I'm guessing the guy who sent this in to me, he didn't tell me his age, but I'm guessing he's kind of probably 30, 40 by the content of the story. You can make up your own mind. Hi Peter, really enjoy your streams. This is a short story from a vacation to Pattaya, Thailand a few years ago. One night I decided to visit iBar. This bar is well known for a younger crowd with cool music and table service for drinks. The bar extends all the way out and the back of the bar actually extends over water. When I arrived at the bar and made my way towards the tables at the back, the bar was busy and the atmosphere felt great. As I walked through, I passed the pool tables and finally I found an empty table on the left-hand side of the decking at the back, right next to the water. I thought this was a great spot and things were looking good. I decided to order a bottle of vodka and mixers. A good thing about iBar is if you don't finish your bottle, you can leave it with them and come back for it again. I recall the bottle costing about 1200 baht, which works out very cheap per drink. I can remember sitting at the table with the music playing, the light shimmering on the sea and beautiful girls all around and feeling like $1 million. After a few vodkas, I started to loosen up and before no time started talking to a cute Thai girl by my table. We had many drinks together and the time was flying by. I was feeling fairly drunk at this stage. The Thai girl was having fun dancing and joking with me and was clearly getting drunk as well. Out of nowhere, I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to see what this was. I looked ahead and was looking into this guy's chest. He was huge. He asked in a foreign accent if he and his friend could share my table. I said, of course, no problem. Let me tell you, I'm a small middle-aged guy of about 5'7", and both these guys were big guys, about 30 years of age. They ordered a bottle of vodka. While waiting for their bottle, this guy told me he was from Russia. We didn't talk much more, and I turned my attention back to the girl. After about 5 minutes, a bottle of vodka arrived. Now this is where things took a turn. The Thai girl pushed me in a joking way. I lost my balance. I stumbled backwards and knocked the table. The Russian's brand new bottle of vodka literally flew in the air and went over the railing and plop into the water below. I couldn't believe what had just happened, and the world stopped for a few seconds. I literally thought this was not going to end well for me. I looked around and the Thai girl could not be seen for dust. I was on my own now. How the hell was I going to get out of this one? The Russian guys were looking at me with disbelief, and I thought, here we go. I immediately apologised and tried to explain and told them I would buy them another bottle. This huge Russian guy put his huge arm around me and said, don't worry, man, it was an accident, you are cool. I cannot begin to tell you the sense of relief the Russians ordered a new bottle and would not take any money from me. Now the ice was broken, we got chatting and I spent the rest of the evening drinking vodka with these Russian guys. I have to say they were great guys and I had an amazing time drinking with them until the early hours. The next morning I woke with this hazy hangover feeling and thought, wow, did that really happen? Only in Thailand. And that one was sent in by Mr. J. But it just shows you guys, you can't tell a book by its cover. And that's one of those situations that tends to only happen in Thailand. I mean, I think if that had happened in the UK, definitely it would have been a big punch up. But there you go. Okay, so 3 pretty good entertaining stories for you again this week. As I said last week, not wanting to repeat myself, but I am exhausted out of these stories. If any more get sent in the week, because I make these uploads earlier in the week, I prepare them early, and if I get any more sent in, then they'll have to wait for the following week. But as it stands, I don't have a single story left, so if I don't get sent any this week, then I'll have to have a rethink about next Saturday. Okay, guys, that's about it for the video for the moment. As I always say as well, don't forget the live stream 9 p.m. tonight UK time. I'll be back. It was 2 hours and a few minutes last Saturday. It went very well. Everyone seemed to have a good time. We had a few beers, and if you've got nothing better to do today, maybe you can join the live stream at 9 o'clock, and it'd be great to have you in the chat actually. But until then, that's it. Thanks for listening to the 3 stories once again, and as always, if you've got a story, send it in. Until tonight, guys, I'll catch you later.